Aloha, beautiful beings, and welcome to another episode of the Yoni Havana podcast, where we explore consciousness, looking into how things work in the universe so we can enjoy life more and become more whole. My guest today is dedicated biohacker, state-of-the-art fitness trainer, holistic health coach, sports professional, and host of the Simply Walk the Talk podcast. His name is Joshua J. Holland. In this episode, Joshua explains why awareness is the most important quality one needs to cultivate for a meaningful and joyful life, how his relentless hustle mentality got him to live his dream and work with huge stars such as Madonna, Roger Waters, and Oscar Isaac, how and why he came up with his 5 pillars for health and wellness, how a profound psychedelic-focused retreat awakened him, and much more. If you find value in this conversation, please share with a friend. So enjoy this inspirational and heart-opening conversation with Joshua J. Holland. Aho. Josh, thank you for coming on to the show. Welcome.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. This will be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I ran into your podcast when I was researching some information about Crew von Holzerdorf failing. I was been on my podcast recently, and I really dig your show. I dig it's not really with the music and, you know, your production and then your voice. There's something about your voice that resonates with me. So, you know, I have a lot of judgment on my voice, but there's a lot of voices that I listen to. And Ian Mitchell, we talked about Ian Mitchell a few minutes ago, is one of them. It's like I listen to their voice and there's some sort of coherence or vibration going on. I'm like, that person, I want to talk to that person more, you know, like just being that resonance, I mean, sound, you know. So yeah, I really appreciate you making time.
No, absolutely. And again, thank you. And I think there definitely is something to that, because sound is a certain frequency, right? And so various sounds can elicit various responses. And so I think there is something to that. I don't know, you know, what frequency my voice is on and whatnot, but I do feel into things like you do. And there's certain people that I would much rather listen to for long periods of times, endlessly. And then there's some people that I would rather read what they wrote, right? So, but yeah, it was fascinating that you brought up the episode with Crew, because her and her husband, they have the longest names of all time, right? You know, my podcast. But it was really fascinating speaking with them about Leela Quantum, also Ian Mitchell with the C60 and all these things. So we already have a bit of synergy in the previous podcasts that we've done together. So I was excited to chat with you.
Right on. Yeah, I figure we have a bunch in common, you know, researching or going into the same things. And on that note, you know, you showed me briefly before we got recording that you wrote a book on awareness. And I'd love to hear about the book, when you wrote it, what's it about. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you notice down here, it's Tessa Cash and Joshua J. Holland. So this was a book that I co-wrote with a former client of mine who happens to be a writer. And I myself have never really considered myself to be a writer. And that's okay, because I feel like I would much rather someone who specializes in writing and really enjoys writing and has a passion of creating beautiful pictures through words. Let them do what they do, and then I'll feed you the content, right? And so when I finally found that that perfect blend of that person, it happened to be a person who was a client of mine. And I thought, oh, this is actually perfect, because in having a ghostwriter or someone write for you, a lot of times it's better if they really are on the inside of that process, of said process, right? And so when I'm speaking about, so basically the book is the 5 pillars of optimal health and wellness, which is basically my ethos, what I believe in helping people to optimize their health, wellness, and fitness. So basically the book is a culmination of what I believe works best for the people that I've worked with and myself. And so when I started to come up with some content for Tessa, I essentially just sent her loads and loads and loads of voice notes. So I basically wrote this book with voice notes, but a lot of hours of voice notes. And Tessa is amazing in that she was able to kind of piece it together in this beautiful way. And again, it's broken down into like 5 main categories. So the first category is, so basically it's, there's 5 pillars, and in front of each pillar is this term quality, right? So quality awareness is pillar number 1, which I find to be the most important thing that any of us can do. It doesn't matter if you're trying to gain weight, lose weight, get stronger, run faster or longer. I think all of us can benefit from improving our wellness and our wellness through awareness. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I used to have the pillars broken down to just like awareness and then the next one and the next one. But when I put the word quality, that adjective quality, in front of each of those pillars, it made people go, oh, so maybe there is a certain spectrum on all of these things that we can improve upon in our lives. And so you might feel like you're aware, but can you improve upon that awareness? Where on the spectrum are you? Mm-hmm. Right. And I don't think anyone is going to ever achieve like optimum awareness. And what does that even mean, really? Right. But can we improve upon that? Can you get deeper on that end of the spectrum that you want to be, closer to that, that optimized level? So quality awareness is number 1. Next is quality rest, right? Which includes sleep and recovery, because I feel like the next main thing that we should all be focusing on is ways to recover from stressors. And a lot of time people think stress is just the thing that we think about mentally when we're arguing with our spouse, or we have problems with our families or our friends or loved ones or whatever. And that's just one level of stress. A lot of people neglect physical stressors, like working out. Okay. So a lot of people think that they can benefit from going to work out, and that takes care of the mental stress. But what they don't really understand is that you're also loading more stress onto your body in the form of physical stress. In fact, the physical stress that we put on our body, what we hope to gain, the physiological response that we hope to get out of exercise and eating right and all that stuff, comes from the fact that we recover. Mm-hmm. Right? So when we sleep and we recover and we meditate and we do all the things that would be lumped into quality recovery or quality rest, that's actually how we get to the goal that we want to get to in the first place. And that's why in the hierarchy of things, in the pillars, that's why that's so high up on that list. So again, number 1 is quality awareness. Number 2 is quality rest, or quality rest and recovery. Number 3 is quality consumption. And I love to use the word consumption, because when a person hears that, they should automatically think, why didn't he say quality food? Well, because consumption comes from a number of things, right? There's the things we eat, the things we drink, and then there's our epigenetics, right? So the things that we're consuming around us, which also plays into the quality recovery piece, because we also need to recover from like the environment. So if you live in a big city like I do, I'm in New York City, there's loads of smog and there's loads of negative energy around, right? There's all these things that we're consuming. So those two kind of go hand in hand. We need to, the level above that, we need to recover from that level below, which would be the things we eat, the things we drink, the people we surround ourselves with, the negative thoughts that we have going on in our head, the things that we're afraid of, the shame that we have, the trauma that we've carried since we were babies. All of these things are what we're consuming. So quality consumption means, okay, how do we change that? All right. Pillar number 4 is quality activeness. Again, I like people to think when I talk with them. So I imagine you're a smart guy. You're like, well, what does quality activeness mean? And being that I have my claim to fame as a fitness trainer, a lot of people think that quality activeness is all about hitting the gym and going to work out and this and that. And no, that's not it. In fact, pillar number 5 is quality exercise. So if we back up to number 4, what is quality activeness? Well, activeness to me is anything that requires you to move or allows you to move, but does not have to have a certain rep scheme, does not require you to change your clothes to do it, does not require you to break a sweat. I mean, you could sit here and fidget, right? You can twiddle your hands. You could use one of those, fidget spinners, or you can go and throw a football with your friend, or you can go, instead of driving to the store to get your groceries, you can go walk to the store. You can get on a scooter. A lot of times people think that just because you're riding an e-bike, that it's cheating, but I don't consider it that. I think that's quality activeness. Now, can you be more quality? Can you get further on that spectrum of quality? Sure. You can have a regular bike or go walk or go run. But if that makes the compliance of that lower, then what's the point? So if you only consider riding a real bike to be quality activeness, but you don't actually ride your real bike, which I have over here, then what good does it do? But if you make it fun by having a powered, like assisted bike with a little bit of electricity, and that allows you to go out, go farther, go faster, have more fun, and you do it every other day, what do you think is higher on the spectrum, right? That's quality activeness. And so introducing all of those 5 pillars, which I just outlined, that should be a really good start to a conversation with a new client. And that's the basis of what I do.
Wow. It's beautiful. And the book's name is The Awareness Shift.
Yeah, The Awareness Shift. Thank you for allowing me to plug that.
Absolutely. Is it on Amazon?
It is. I can share the link
on your
with
website.
You. It's on the website. It's on Amazon. And what you may notice is that there's 2 different. Let me just show you quickly. 1 second.
Right on.
There's 2 different versions of the book. So this is version 1 with the white shift.
Okay.
Right. And version 2, the updated version, has the yellow shift. Okay. We changed a few things around. We added some content, took some things away. There's a bit of a, I don't know, like it was a big learning process when it comes to writing books. And again, I never considered myself to be a writer. And after going through this and all the hoops that we had to go through to get this out, I realized why I am not a writer. I do enjoy reading very much. I enjoy listening to podcasts and audiobooks and all that stuff. I have since written on my own. I've written a second book.
Wow.
But I haven't released it yet. And the reason is because I want it to hit just right. And it's basically a workout concept. And so anybody listening out there, if you're interested in working with me on bringing this to life, then let me know. But it's basically a book in which I developed a program called the 15x5 workout concept. And I posted some videos online, and I did a podcast about it, something I've been doing for a long time. And I think it's a really good sort of complement to the awareness shift, because a lot of people were thinking that I got the comments a lot of feedback came to me about, well, Josh, it was great that you wrote this book that had all this stuff in it, all these pillars, but I kind of got your book because I was hoping to get some good workout concepts. And I said, well, good. I'm glad you got the book. I'm glad you read it. Stay tuned, because I'm coming out with that version. And so that's what I'm working on now.
That's cool. And it's cool that your 5th principle there is exercise. So you're saying like exercise is the 5th one, and you're writing like what people are asking for. Perhaps they read a whole book, but as you're saying, from 1 to 4, this is the priority right there. And I'm with you. And there's something I wanted to touch on, and it started with the awareness, as we spoke about, and this podcast is about exploring consciousness, and I'm all about awareness. I do think it's the most important thing. When we have more awareness in life, kind of catching the way that we're doing things or the way that we show up, and, the little subtleties, that's what I call like mini awakenings, constantly awakening to how life works and how we've been operating in life, whether it's from childhood programming or just the way things are. I think that's the number one thing. What came to mind, though, is you're saying like the quality of awareness. So I think the top quality for the people perhaps that are interested, what is the end of the spectrum? I think that's enlightenment. From what I've been hearing, talking to Philip, I'm going to call him Philip VHF, founder and CEO of Lila, and from talking to crew, they host Bufo retreats in Costa Rica, which I said I'm going to go to one of them, which will happen hopefully in 2024. I've never experienced it, but the way they describe it is one kind of shoots out to become everything in God. And they're saying like they're aware of everything simultaneously, of all the sorrows, of all the pain, of all the beauty, of all the bliss, of everything, of every flower, of every frog, of every little thing. So I think that's the top awareness. Does that awareness serve us in these bodies, to have a conversation like we're having right now? I don't think so. I think that's why,
Yes.
we are perhaps in a lower level of consciousness to be able to experience a different way of life, to work through some karma and go and do what we came to do as souls, spirits, however that is. I'm still figuring out what's the difference between a soul and a spirit. So excuse me for my ignorance for the ones who already know, but I'm still on my journey there. And then when you were talking about the sleep and rest, is something actually that I got exactly 5 years ago. I went to do ayahuasca in Peru, in the Sacred Valley, and the number one lesson that as I would say, I got from ayahuasca was rest. Like, take a nap, because I get good sleep, I get good rest during the night, and I'm all about working with yin energy and meditating and all kinds of rest protocols. But I even have like a cold plunge in here from Plunge, and I turn it off. Like I got the water out, I drained it like a couple weeks ago. I had a few like rougher weeks, just waking up in the middle of the night. Dog was sick. I had to take care of my son, who's a year old, like in the middle of the night, to do a little stretching for his mouth after a procedure. I'm like, I'm not going to add another stress right now. Like, I love activating my vagus nerve. I love the cold. It feels good, but like, it's too much. I'm like, I just did like one plunge and I'm feeling like, whoa, that hormetic stress was like over the top right now. So 5 years later, I just I put it on my calendar right now, like, depending on the time, but like a little bit after lunch, maybe like an hour after lunch, I will take a nap. So-called nap. I may fall asleep, I may not. I may just close my eyes and do a little body scan, yoga nidra, something to bring in some yin energy. That's the message that I got. Once again, I think I got it a lot of times, but it was clear then. I maybe napped twice in the past 5 years, and I had 2 kids born in this time, and brought a puppy into the equation and such. And as I think a lot of people know, life does not slow down, whether it's kids or without kids. It's not slowing down. So I decided I'm going to consciously slow down now and make that time. And so I loved how you put those as the two the top principles. And
sure,
I'm all about it. So
there's a couple things, if you don't mind. There's a couple
Please.
things I want to touch on, because like I think you're hitting the nail on the head. First thing, and I will try not to forget the others, but first thing is I totally agree about when is the best time to achieve the ultimate end of the spectrum of awareness, which would be enlightenment. And I think you bring up a really good point, which is we are not designed to be at that level all the time. It's great to get to that point. There's times that I felt like, because I've done DMT, and I've done Hape, and I've done a bunch of various things. I did a hero dose of psilocybin, and like all throughout all these moments, I was like, wow, there was so much. But to your point, it's like to live in that, it would be too much, I think, for me. And so how do I sort of come back to reality, reintegrate into this reality, and allow others to possibly get to that point? And then it's just like this beautiful cycle of, then they understand that they can't stay at that point, and then they can show others, and then eventually everyone becomes a little bit more aware, which is why I'm actually happy that microdosing is becoming a little bit more prevalent nowadays. And I think it's going to do some good. Hopefully that is true. So that was one thing I wanted to touch on. I think the spectrum, that kind of optimum end of that spectrum is enlightenment. Where do we find balance of living in the best that we can on that quality spectrum, but also being able to integrate into the society in reality? So that was a really good point you brought up. Another thing is talking about like cold plunging and and sort of understanding when and where and how you may be able to reduce stressors. And I call that awareness. So that's the reason why you came to that, because you were aware that you needed to make a change. And this is what I want most people to understand when they work with me, or when I speak with them, or we have a conversation. It's not about any one person being right, or one method, or one device, or this and that. But it all comes down to, what is your perspective and what is your awareness within what you want to do or need to do? Because nothing else matters. Like you brought up a good point about having the cold plunge and having the different tools. Like, if you were to come to my place, or if I took a camera around and show you, I have a load of things. I mean, so much stuff. And I can probably find a hack for anything that a person comes to me for. Or I can say, but what is the point? Let's say you do get to enlightenment, like you did, through, or like you've heard others do with Bufo. Then what? Right? Or what happens when you finally nail down your sleep and you figured out, like, oh, I got my sleep dialed in. Okay, then what? Like, there's so many more things that we can work on throughout our life to actually thrive, instead of trying to just survive in this world, right? And so, I love the idea of taking a nap. I take a nap almost every single day. Wow. Almost every single day. And the reason why I do that is because, one, it allows me to kind of break up my day a little bit, right? And of course, I use a few devices. Like, I use Brain Tap. I don't know if you're familiar with Brain Tap, but I use Brain Tap, which I think is amazing, incredible. I also have some cool, like, red light devices that I'm trying out. So because I'm a biohacker and I get a lot of things sent to me, or I purchase a lot of things to try out to see if it's going to work, it's also kind of like my accountability into doing the things that I know I need to do or want to do anyway. So I'm not going to spend a bunch of money on something and then let it sit there. If it's there and I like it and I see there's good use with it, then I go, oh, okay, well, I need to try this one out. And that happens to support my need for a nap. So it's a win-win for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you take naps then with the brain? Do you do like cycle things on and off? Like, you do red light during a nap? I'd love to hear some of your protocols.
So as you get to know me, you'll know I am not a person that gets that's like put in a box, right? Mm-hmm. So I do all the above that you just mentioned. There's times when I will literally flip on, crappy TV and happen to, like, get in my infrared blanket and lay on my couch and fall asleep. That's kind of like a crappy nap, right? Mm-hmm. Let's just call it what it is. Then there's times when I go the other end of the spectrum. So again, for me, spectrum is kind of a big part of my ethos, spectrums. So my nap spectrum is all over the map. So I can do the crappy version, or I can do the upgraded version, which would be Brain Tap. And well, I will say this: almost always, the one thing that is kind of the standard across the board for me is grounding and earthing. So I know and understand that our society, our modern humans, have gone farther and farther away of connecting to the earth through free electrons and through the energy of the earth, because of insulation through our homes, the fact that we wear rubber-soled shoes, which is a non-conductor and insulator. A lot of these things keep us from being able to connect to nature. And we think a lot of people think they love nature, and maybe we go outside with our shoes off and walk barefoot on the beach for a moment, when we go on vacation, or maybe we go outside and we get some sun, and that's great. That's all amazing. But a lot of times we're doing that at most. If you're really good and you're really consistent, you're doing that maybe an hour a day, maybe. What about the other 23 hours in the day? So that's where my biohacking, my tech geeking out nerd sense comes in. And so I've got all these products where, like I have magnets on. So this is a magnetic bracelet. This is a magnetic chain.
Really?
Right? This is Chi Blanco an EMF blocking device, quantum energy. And then I also have like grounding sheets on my bed. So my entire bed is covered with a grounding sheet and grounding pillows. And then even when I'm sitting at home watching TV, I have a PEMF device that I sit on. I've got a waveguard device. So I've got all these things to constantly keep me connected to the earth.
Yeah.
Because that is an energy source that is driving everything. But when you forget about it, then we start to question, wait, why do I feel sick throughout certain times of the year? Why do I not sleep well? Well, try grounding yourself. Just start there. So anyway, I could ramble on.
Yeah, I love that. So I have grounding sheets and the grounding pillows, and I want to ask you, like, so my grounding sheet for the bed, so I have my bed, and then I have perhaps a mattress cover, and on top of that, I have the grounding sheet, and then I have a linen sheet on top of that. And I'm wondering even if I'm getting a good amount of grounding from that. And then I have the grounding pillow too, but I took it out in the summer. It's a little bit like sweaty, and I keep it cold, and I'm sleeping with very thin, like, organic cotton shorts. I'm all about it. Like, I'm standing on the universal grounding mat right now, and I went outside before I live on a bigger property here in Georgia, over an acre. And, I went outside, did a little prayer. I'm getting some sunlight, I'm grounding, but still I'm indoors. It's 72 in here, whatever. Like, the connection to the natural electromagnetic frequency of the earth, of the sun, is still, even if I do it 2 hours a day, which I'm going to be generous with myself, really outside I'm talking about. So I'm wondering, how are you sleeping on it? And it's a question that a lot of people have asked me. I'm like, are you really getting like good grounding? I do notice a difference if I'm directly on it. So I wonder how you're doing it.
Great question. And I'm sure you probably know I'm going to go back to this idea of a spectrum. Mm-hmm. So can you optimize your situation? Of course. And you're someone that's far, far ahead of most people because you've got all the tools, you've got all the stuff. But can you optimize your space? Absolutely. You can sleep directly on the grounding mat. You can sleep directly on the grounding pillow. And that's going to be probably the best connection in terms of in-home devices, right? Mm-hmm. I, like you, was the exact same way. Like, I don't like the stickiness, so to speak, or the sweatiness of that black material, right? It's kind of like I forget what the material is made out of. So at least earthing.com, which is where I get all my stuff, and I'm a big affiliate with them. I have been for many years. They have come out with some very, very new tech that has the silver fabric, but it's I don't think it's linen. It's bamboo. That's what it is. It's bamboo with silver, and it's very thin, and so they have pillowcases that go over that black grounding case, and then they've got the sheet that goes over the grounding pad. So that's what I have.
Yeah, gotcha.
And to take it just another step further is, and I can send you a link to all that stuff if you want, but to take it another step further.
I'll put in the show notes your link and your
code
perfect. If you have one. So
yeah, I do. Yeah. Thank you. So what I do is take that another step further. So now keep in mind, so maybe the people listening or watching, maybe they don't know what this is, but you know what that black topper is, right? The grounding mat. The what do they call that? The bed grounding bed mat, I guess it's called.
Grounding sheets, yeah.
What I have is very similar to you, but just underneath the grounding pad, I have the chili pad.
Okay.
So I can temperature regulate that sheet.
Yeah.
And then the grounding on top of it. So now that material, it actually harbors or harnesses temperature much better than the regular mattress itself. Mm-hmm. So if I want it to be cool and cold, which I do, I like it to be cold, it gets even colder than it ever has before because of that material. So now it's a win-win. So I got the sheet on top of it, got the grounding, got the temperature regulation, all of that stuff. And then what else? What's the other thing? Yeah, so I think that addresses what you were talking about, because there is obviously a way to test it. Do you know how to test your body to know if it's
Yeah, with like what's the electricity, like the black and red, you know,
Yes.
the two I bought one, like a cheap one, and I just did in the ground just to show people like what's grounding like, some people that I work with.
Okay.
So
So you,
yeah.
but have you done that on your bed with your
I
linen sheets?
with the bed, what I've not done it when I'm laying on my linen sheets. You know, when you put that in the plug in the wall, and you know, just at least the plug is good to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I did not test to see. I had the, you know, the pill I just took out like really like I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago. Actually also I had the chili pad for like 3 days, and then my wife says it's too loud. I'm like, all right,
Oh,
like,
really?
so
I think it's the perfect
it's
like
like
white noise.
white noise. Yeah, I know. So she's like, and she likes like earplugs. She just likes complete silence. And I got two of them, you know, so I got her side, my side, and she's like, get these things out of here. So, you know, I mean, yeah, you know, I'm working within the spectrum is working within the spectrum of two people's liking. But yeah, I mean, I keep it as cold as I can, you know, the room, and you know, she has her like long sleeve, you know, baseball tee and long pants, and I'm there sweating. I mean, it's just, you
Do
know,
you share screens when you do this podcast? Like, do you ever share a screen?
I can. Do you want me to
Okay,
pull
or
up a link?
I can share mine if you want,
Yeah,
or you can
absolutely.
share yours. Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna show you like something really quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm a big, obviously, I'm a big fan of earthing, and here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna send you, because you can put this in the show notes, but I'll send this to you for now.
Do you have an option to share screen on your end?
Yes, I'll share screen, but let me just pull this up before I share it.
It's the real optimization going on here, fellas.
Yeah, because there is a way to, where we go. Where are you? There you are. Okay, so I'm gonna put this in the chat for a second, so you have this for now. Okay, and it's easy because the discount code is just JOSH, Josh.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, but if I go to earthing.com, which you can get from that link, now I'll share my screen. So here we go. Share screen.
They upgraded their website.
Okay, so are you seeing my screen right now?
Yeah.
All right. So if you go into Shop All, what you'll notice is, so for the people who are watching this, this is what we were just talking about, is this sort of the sleep system. At least that's what I have. I have the sleep system. And here's a sheet set that I was talking about. Mm-hmm. And so if we click on this, it's got silver strands. And I said that it was bamboo, but I want to make sure that I was correct on that. Oh, it says here 98% cotton. So I thought it was bamboo, but it is cotton, which I guess you're into as well.
I like cotton better than bamboo. For anybody who's listening, I think it's a better material. It says vibration.
It says the sleep system must be used with an earthing mattress cover in order for the sheets to be grounded. They do not directly connect to an earthing cord, which we know. Mm-hmm. The sheets must be used with and directly touching a mattress cover, sleep mat, pillow cover for it to be conductive. Any part of the sheet that is not directly touching the surface of one of these covers will not be conductive. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, you can go back and I can show you.
So that has the silver strands in it?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, so yeah, that's awesome.
This is what I was going to suggest you to get. Because this, I don't know if you have this or not.
I do not.
But this is a much easier way to determine if you've got a charge or not. Now, not testing the grounding plug itself, but if you just put this, and I have some videos on my Instagram and my TikTok, which again I can also link to, but it shows exactly how. I'll stop the share now. It shows exactly how I use that tester. So you can plug all your stuff in, put your sheets on, and then you just turn on that device, connect it to the end, put it on there. If it works, or if the green light comes on, it means you're getting a ground from that. Mm-hmm. If not, then you're not. The difference between the process that you've been using is that you can see exactly how much positive charge you have in your body, because you can measure that, like in voltage. Right. And then you can see what it goes to when you are grounded. And so usually it gets closer to zero, at least the way that I measure it. A lot of times I'm starting, at a kind of a higher number, a lot of times people who have not been exposed to grounding have a much higher number than I do, because I'm mostly exposed to grounding all the time. But it's always cool to see that number go down to close to zero and then like you see the light bulb turn on in people's eyes when they do it for the first time. It's like, oh my goodness, like I guess I need to be balanced, you know?
Absolutely. So, I appreciate that. And we're going on this for, more than a few minutes now, because as it is the number 2 principle in your book, and I think really number 2 principle perhaps in life beyond awareness is the rest. And this is our time to really recharge and have the batteries to do what we want to do in the world, and enjoy what it has to offer. And the last thing I want to add on that, so what I'm going to do once I get these sheets is that I'm going to put them in the Lila infinity blocks, the quantum block, and I'm going to charge them with quantum energy and with the frequency of inner peace. So here you go. So you got the infinity block too. Now, you talked about EMF protection, all that. And I'm also wearing a necklace that I made with the infinity block. So I kind of made my own concoction here, adding testosterone in the form of beef testicles and prostate. I know this may be a little bit much for some people to hear, but making my own things there to protect from EMFs and embody my energy with other frequencies that I deem useful and life enhancing for me. So yeah, I'm going to go the next step. I'm going to get these sheets, put them in the block, and have the quantum energy conducting. It's going to be awesome. So thank you for that optimization right there. I'm stoked about it. And I'm sure for at least some of the audience who is listening to this episode, they're going to be like, yeah, that's the jam right there. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know how many hours of sleep people get today, but let's just say 7+ hours on average. As you were talking about, kind of that 1 hour of possibly grounding, that's what I'm talking about, especially when we're resting. And, something like, okay, I might be grounding outside, but I may be holding my phone, doing a little something. I may be a little stressed about, something going on in life, whether it's going to be finances or work or showing up on time to a podcast. It doesn't even matter. When we're in that, real parasympathetic state, that's going to, get to the deep sleep, etc. So huge fan. And I think the sheets, what I've seen as you were sharing the screen, it showed like $160 or something. Perhaps that's for twin or queen, but we're talking about,
I think it's for queen.
Yeah. We're I mean, relatively from what are people going to spend money on? We know how much dinners cost these days, especially in New York City. But like in a lot of places, like, a dinner for two, we're talking about $100 usually, 80, $100 or more. So easy. I mean, you're gonna have a glass of wine, you're gonna have dessert, just the tip these days. I mean, we're talking about 15, 18%, 20%. And so anyway, so to me it's a no-brainer.
I just sent you a link, and I know we're belaboring this topic, but I just sent you this link because this video here really shows people the several ways to do this. Okay. So, and it has an example of that tester that I'm telling you about. So you can see exactly how it works. But also what happened is I was in Budapest because I have, my family lives in Budapest, and my ex-partner and I, we have 2 kids together, and we were staying at a very old house. Her father's mother's house, so her grandmother's house. It was extremely old and doesn't have proper grounding. So what do you do in a situation like that? I pride myself in being grounded all the time as best I can. Well, what do you do? This video describes it.
Awesome. All right, I'll link to it. On that note, hearing about family and kids, I'd love if you feel comfortable sharing. Got 2 kids, got more than that. I'm curious about your because you're doing so much for yourself already, learning so much, and you have a show and you're working with clients. And as a young father, I love hearing how people juggle these balls of family.
It is very challenging. Okay. So my ex-partner and I, we're not together anymore. We're just co-parenting from afar. I do my best to support them from afar, and I get a chance to see them. Like, I get asked a lot, how often do you get a chance to see your kids? And the question is like everything else. It varies. Sometimes I'm working in Europe, so I see them regularly, or like once a month or twice a month. Then there's times when I go several months without being able to see them physically, but we communicate a lot, thankfully, with technology of today. So modern technology allows me to stay connected with my kids. And, so my son is 4.5. He's almost 5. My daughter's 2. And so my son was born in Germany. My daughter was born in Budapest. They all live in Budapest as we speak. They may be transitioning to go back to Germany at some point. And to be totally honest with you, I'm actually okay with the fact that they live there and not here, especially with a lot of, like, over the past couple of years, just what I've seen happen here in the US, especially in a big city like New York. I'm from Oklahoma. I'm a very, very like small town country boy. Like, my town has about 3,000 people in it to this day. And I live in New York City for the last 19 years. And there are certain buildings that have more people in it than my town does. Right. And so but I do have this blend of kind of like small town life and big city urban life and traveling the world and all these things. And so I've gotten an opportunity to kind of understand all of those differences. And when my partner and I, when we were together, she was just like, you know what, Josh, I'm not sure if I want to raise our kids in the US. And I'm like, no, that's okay. I'm okay with that, because I think she was a little bit nervous, thinking that, like, I'm going to want to have my kids here. But one, it's super expensive here in New York. I wasn't quite sure if I was ready to move back to Oklahoma. And then that would be essentially taking her and the kids away from their family there, when I don't even really live in Oklahoma anyway. I go back and visit quite often. But the reason why I say it's challenging is because, of course, I wish I had my kids with me all the time. I wish I had them here. At the same time, I wouldn't be able to do the work that I'm doing if that was the case, because it's hard. Like, I'm traveling, I'm working with clients, I'm in and out of planes, I'm in different time zones, and kids just want to be kids. They don't really quite understand you got to be quiet, or you can't do this, you can't do that. And we also try to raise them in the most natural way possible. So they're barefoot all the time. They have barefoot shoes. They're grounded. They eat the best foods. They've literally never eaten at a fast food restaurant, right? I mean, it's just
same.
Like, their mother always packs them healthy food, cooks every night. They cook with her. They understand all these things. And of course they have their challenges and their kids, right? But it's so beautiful watching them. Like, my life changed the first time that I witnessed birth. And then the second time I witnessed birth, it changed again. And to be able to have these human beings, it showed me what it's like to have purpose. Finally, I think for the first time in my life, because, I think I thought I knew what my purpose was, but man, when those kids came out, whoo-hoo, and we did home births, and I was there physically to, like, bring the child into the world and put them on the mother's breast and on my chest, and connection, and it was all the beautiful things, and looking at the placenta and understanding the tree of life with the vein structures and all these things, right? Like, these are powerful moments that I hold dear to me. And it's also the reason why that at least for now, you won't see any images of my family on my social media. Not that it's a judgment on anyone else who does do that, but that's something sacred to me. I get a chance to keep that close to my heart, because I know what I would probably do or feel like if someone judged me negatively in what I'm doing with that. So I don't even subject myself to it. Also, after watching movies like Sound of Freedom and things like that, I understand that child trafficking and a lot of negativity comes around just simple images of kids online. So again, I want to just not even have to deal with that, which is the reason why I don't have my family online. So if a person is thinking about, like, oh, I want to go and see Josh's kids, I want to see what they look like, you won't find it. You won't find it.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm in a similar boat. Actually, a few years ago, I got myself off all social media for all kinds of reasons. A lot of it is just distraction. I felt like with the amount of awareness that I've been cultivating, I was not immune to, just the habits and the dopamine response of, like, oh, is there a comment in there? Is there a message? Is there some interesting content coming from somebody that I'm following? Just like constantly, like, and I will say, most likely compared to, I don't know, the average of 290 times that people open Instagram, I was way lower, but still 20 times to open Instagram per day or whatever they might be. So I removed myself from all of that and really focused on what I want to do. And I felt actually much better. And I created an Instagram account with the one that I contacted you with only for the podcast. So with that, I'm not, I removed the option of being tagged. My wife tagged me in a photo before. I'm like, I don't want pictures of, like, you want to, I'm cool with some pictures of our kids on your private account, do your thing. Although we know that it's not really private, all these terms and conditions that even if you read them a couple times, they keep updating them. At the end of the day, this content, these free tools, the free technology tools that we get access to, we're the product. So I really don't enjoy and even the thought about my kids and my personal photos and videos, my personality, the identity that I like to call it, that my higher self created in this sacredness of the family being on the internet. So, that's especially with the kids, and also permission from the kids, even if they would say like, yeah, I'm cool with you uploading a photo of me. They, as you're saying, they don't know what it means, why to be quiet, what it means. They're in a different brainwave. They don't have this understanding. They don't have discernment at this age. So with that, yeah, no judgment of others. I love seeing pictures of people's families and how they're showing up as family, fathers and mothers and all of that. Like, I love that. For me personally, my personal place in life is that's not in my value system. Once again, I do enjoy seeing other people's families. Like, I really do. It brings me so much joy. It's just that I think, as we're talking about consciousness in the beginning, everybody has a different mission and purpose and different perhaps challenges and triggers, and that's one of mine. Like, I'm very much the protector of my family. Like, I was born in Israel. I moved to the United States about 15 years ago, and I calmed down a good amount from the hectic Israeli identity that I've been living, just to kind of the surviving. So really, there's a lot of surviving in Israel, which is things that you mentioned psilocybin, DMT. I did a good amount of plant medicine. I actually host retreats that are plant medicine. They have plant medicine in them. They're about expansion, community. Actually, I'm wearing the shirt right now. It's called Men of Integrity. So this is for masculine men. You can check it out on moi.community. And
oh, that's dope. Yeah, send me a link to that.
Absolutely.
Or I'll go check it out. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's so many things interwoven there that the work that I've been doing, but still, like, the protector, like, and I think that's really we talk about grounding and we being connected to the earth. This is our role. This is our role as fathers, as the patriarchs. There's a good amount of talk now about crushing the patriarchy, and I think it's coming from misunderstanding as pendulums are swinging of toxic masculinity, but positive masculinity, the one that is, we talk about it in our retreats, in our community, like somebody who's unwavering, somebody who's still showing emotions and vulnerable, and protecting and showing love to all sentient beings and safety. Like, there's a positive archetype of the patriarch, of the father. Same thing for the mother. There, I see them as, equally as important. At the same time, of course, I think is also another confusion that is happening there, and a little tension is we're not equal in that way. Like, mothers, as you talk about birth and the process, the initiation that they go through, and we're there watching, we're going through an initiation ourselves, but it's a whole different ordeal. Like, we just have a lot of times different roles and different responsibilities and different gifts. So I do love the dance of feminine and masculine, which is in all of us, but really, like, of male and female, and just how things are working. And that's for all. I'm going to say that, as inclusive it is, it's for all likes, genders, sexes, however that is, however form God creation has created, and whatever expression it is, there's a beautiful dance to be danced, to be expressing ourselves in, to really let that flow and bring it into beauty. That's how I see it.
Yes. Very well said. And there was one thing that I wanted to agree with you on and touch on briefly before we go down the path of the genders and things like that. Because I agree. I mean, everything you're saying, and it's not that we all have to always agree, right? But I love your approach. When you mentioned that you enjoy seeing other families and the dynamics, I'm the same way. In fact, when people who are close to me, those are the ones who do get a chance to see my kids, and it's because either they see them in real life, or if they're with me and they care, like, oh, like, I haven't seen pictures of your kids in a while because I don't post it online. What I do is I share with them in person, in real time. They get a chance to see. And when I watch them go through my photos on my phone or my iPad or my computer or whatever, I get a chance to witness that same amount of joy that I witness when I see other people's kids. And it's for me, it's incredible. It's so amazing. So I do get a bit of that, maybe not as much as I would if I had, photos online and things like that. But like, I'm with you. I'm the protector of the family. I am not subjecting them to that. And that's that. And then on the subject of masculine toxicity and all these things, I recently watched the movie Barbie, and I was planning on doing a reaction podcast about it. I think I still might do it, but really, when I talk to people about if they went to see the movie and what they thought about it, that topic comes up. And I think, well done for the topic to at least be out and about. Now, obviously, I have some issues with the way that it was done and parts of it. Have you seen it?
I have not, but I've heard like somebody wrote like a segment in a group that I'm in, like a more esoteric group, and the way they were talking about the concepts that the movie shows got me excited to go watch it. So
yes,
they were talking about like how conscious, like the level of consciousness they were depicting there with masculine, femininity, Christ consciousness. I'm like, whoa, I did not expect that at all. I thought it was another Hollywood movie for, I don't know, the 2000s.
Well, I will say this. The person who wrote that sounds like a very evolved person. Sounds like someone that is very aware, someone that who gets it, because that's not most of the comments that I'm seeing. Most of the comments I'm seeing is like, finally, like women power, this and that. And it's like, whoa. That's not the point, right? Like, the point of it is what you pointed out earlier, which is we have a bit of masculine and feminine energy in us, like as a bit of balance, right? And obviously some have more masculine than others, some have more feminine than others, but it doesn't necessarily mean, and we all have different roles, right? Like there's no way I would be able to birth a child, like just because that's just not, my body's not made to do that, but it looked painful, you know what I mean? And we can do a lot of painful things, but like our roles in this world is, so it's not that it's giving it away, but like Barbie land is sort of set up as like as a way for us. If you go into it with an open mind, it's a way for society at large today, which is mostly a patriarchy, right? Mm-hmm. It's designed for it to be seen from another perspective. Almost kind of like, what would it be like if it was flipped? That's kind of how I went into it and how I left. Like, and the parts that I feel that was exaggerated was explained to me was like, well, that's how we as women see it from an exaggerated perspective. And I go, right? Because just because I don't think that that's how life really is, doesn't mean that that's not how others perceive it. Right. So again, to the person who wrote in that group, well done, as I imagine that they see it from a very different perspective than, say, others see it. But that's how we should be going into these things. And a lot of people are judging it based on, oh, well, why does it all have to be pink? And why, I don't even know why I'm talking like this, but but it's like, that's what I think of the person who's writing these comments. It's like, why does it have to all be pink? And why does it have to be women this and men that? And really, it should be just doing what we're doing right now, is talking about it. We should be talking about how are others perceiving the world. That's it.
Well, I think as you're talking about it, and I spent a good amount of time in New York City specifically, like a lot of summers in New York and Long Island, and I would go to the city a lot, and it just made me think about people in New York City, and like how in New York in general, and how animated they are, and
Yeah.
really, and I love that. I really, really love that expression of humans. But as you're saying, like the complaining or the current reactive, kind of like looking to be right, looking to have a conversation, looking to be in a tribe, like we're in like kind of a ganging up and saying like, oh, this is like I'm complaining about X, Y, and Z, and kind of sticking their guns into it, not being open to have a conversation that is more calm and open-minded and open-hearted. Like what's going on in here, and as you're saying, different truths coming from different observers through their bodies, identities. I mean, all these are true things. It's just true to me may not be true to somebody else.
That's right.
I do think, as you were touching on, like, and say with Barbie, and I haven't watched it, but perhaps the pendulums, I think, and then I talk about pendulums, and then you talk about the spectrum. It's like it's been swinging from like, okay, toxic masculinity, all patriarchy, a lot of masculinity, and with that, of course, and my wife included, and like working full time and really doing a lot of roles that are more manly. Don't think there's anything wrong with it. You want to dabble into something fantastic. It's about finding the balance for each couple, for each person, and whatever satisfies them. I think a lot of the times, perhaps including myself, people can get, and I've seen it with men. They're kind of like, oh, okay, all the way to femininity, like yes, surrender, vulnerability, but like we gotta find that balance. It takes, and I know it for myself. I've been swinging the pendulum in so many ways that I have to it's kind of like snowboarding. Like you have to fall on your ass before you know how big of a turn or like a slicing you can take. And I think that's kind of what's going on with society right now. And with that, I do think, so I mean, I said, genders, sexes, etc. I do think, and it seems like there's more masculine men. There's more masculinity, higher percentage of masculinity in most men in the world, higher percentage of femininity in most women in the world. And in general, the feminine likes to, the feminine, the matriarch, the creator really likes to be shaped by the patriarch, by the pattern that we as men, they're creators, they're given birth, and we can direct and help with the direction of that creation. And that's really what brings, I think, kind of the yin and yang, the masculine and the feminine into a beautiful dance. But with that, I think that it is desired by the feminine side to be directed by the masculine side, for the masculine to take the lead, and for the feminine to fully surrender and trust that it's a safe environment for her to do so. And it's not only safe from other external threats, safe in a way that, being listened to and really honored and respected and all of that. So yeah, I'm fascinated by how these archetypes that I'm still learning about. My partner in these Men of Integrity community and retreats, who's got 14 years on me, I'm 36, is 50, and he has a lot more wisdom than I do. Perhaps he also had more wisdom than I do at 36, but he teaches that, like he calls it also polarized relationships, of how it's good to have a balance. And sometimes perhaps people will be more balanced in their masculine and feminine, and also you need somebody who's about more balance. I think he says that's a more of a rare occasion. So it's fascinating to me, and I think we're getting, with the awareness that is happening, as I heard from Philip and crew von Holzendorf-Fehling, I'm saying quite quickly there, the long names, is that the Earth, as they were saying, in 2012 became a conscious creator itself. Like the Earth is a planet, and then the individuals, the souls on the planet are kind of catching up to the energy and the awareness that the Earth has become. Like no longer just creating out of unconsciousness, which is just thinking like, yeah, it's still creating, but kind of undirected. Now it's more like, oh, I am in charge of the situation. Like I can create my own life. I talk a good deal about Dr. Joe Dispenza, whom I'm a big fan of, and who teaches like you're the creator of your own life. Whatever is your life, whatever is your personal reality, your personality is what you create constantly. And I'm aware of that. And as much as a lot of awareness that I'm cultivating, I'm still creating things in my life that I don't really want. I don't really enjoy. And it takes a good amount of repetitions. It takes a good amount of practice to be able to create really the reality that we want. That's what I'm learning, at least. Attention all masculine men and those who cherish them in their lives. Discover Men of Integrity, the game-changing community I'm proud to be a part of. Men of Integrity is a vibrant community and brotherhood I co-founded to ignite the divine masculinity within men. Every spiritual path is honored here, recognizing the dynamic dance of both masculine and feminine energies within. At Men of Integrity, our mission is to help men break free from societal molds and rediscover the path to inner strength, emotional authenticity, and genuine fulfillment. But this is more than just breaking free from norms. We're shattering the shackles that tie success to wealth, that restrict men to stoic providers, and confine them to rigid male identities. Instead, we encourage men to embrace values like kindness, care, and wisdom as the true indicators of success. The heart of our work? Immersive retreats that amplify these revelations coupled with unwavering ongoing support. The results? Relationships bathed in a newfound light, a reignited passion for your work, financial harmony, and a love affair with life that knows no bounds. Welcome to the evolution you've been yearning for. Visit our website, moi.community, to read heartfelt testimonials from our members, learn about our vibrant community and transformative retreats, and secure a spot for a life-changing experience that promises to expand your horizons. Aho.
Beautifully put. And I think there's going to always be some sort of power that the powers that be that will encourage division. And so if they can't encourage and cultivate division through politics, then they will do it through gender. Then they'll do it through pandemics, or they'll do it with race, or they'll do it through religion. But the best way to conquer is what they say, divide and conquer. The division is constantly happening. And so now the current division is genders, right? Like gender, right? So it's like, if you are aware of all of this, then you kind of go, well, actually what they don't want is for us to come together as a people, and because then they don't have any control over us. And I know this sounds very like conspiratory and whatever, but this is just how I see it. And so why not tap into the best parts of us and then improve upon the lesser strengths within us, right? And so if you are always in your masculine energy, whether you're male or female, then what would it be like to tap into your feminine energy? So maybe that is, and I've done some posts. In fact, one of the few posts that have ever gone viral for me happened to be me posting a clip from Joe Rogan's podcast with Jelly Roll, in which Jelly Roll and Joe Rogan got very emotional and crying like several times throughout the show. And, I got nearly 2 million views on Facebook and over 500,000 views on Instagram, simply because these masculine guys are showing their vulnerability. And of course, there's going to be haters on the comments saying, this and that. But at the end of the day, the conversation was around tapping into that other side, and we can do more of that. So instead of trying to break other people down and completely shift to a matriarchy, why can't we just live in balance? Like you pointed out, that's what we should be trying to do.
Absolutely. It's actually something we talk about in the retreats that we pride ourselves on is breaking like the societal definitions of men, of the kind of the unemotional, detached providers, kind of the macho man, so a lot of that, and I think when men, especially, and as you're talking about Joe Rogan and Jelly Roll, embrace the vulnerability, the more nurturing feminine side, that's when they become more creative. They actually make more money. They have a better sense of who they are. They're really connecting to parts that they've been shutting down because the programming, and that's just the way we grew up, is kind of big boys don't cry, stuff it down. And I remember I prided myself of not crying, being very cold, cold-hearted, just like getting stuff done. And it's a fine line. Like I still want to get stuff done. Like I still want to be unwavering, but like every once in a while, I got to let it in. I got to like be okay. And it's something that I'm still working with, of not deflecting sadness and like grief, and it was just like grief, like that, stick it out of the way, like bypass it, get to what needs to be done. I think there's just like honoring, those emotions, honoring emotions in general, showing emotions, all these things that perhaps now, yeah, they're way more acceptable, way more common for men to do, as it's just a new age. But when I was growing up, I mean, when I was a teenager 20 years ago, that was not even, I don't remember anybody who's doing it. I mean, I really don't. And if they did, they were most likely just way more on the feminine side, and that was less common. So yeah, I mean, this is how, it's kind of how we grew up.
Well, you know, there's a technique I like to use, and this can apply to relationships, work, family. It can apply to even fitness training and what I do as a trainer. One of the techniques I like to use is role reversal. And, you know, so just imagine, let's say you and your wife decided for one day to completely reverse the roles. There's so much that comes out of that, because I've done it with my clients, right? So I'm going to be the client today. You're the trainer. And what do you think comes out of that? Lots. Because they start to highlight so I and the other person will highlight the things that is most triggering to them. That's the thing that they carry the most. So if you were to do that role reversal in a relationship, what do you think comes up?
Wow.
Right? Just like I was talking about the people who were giving feedback on the Barbie movie, you know, the way that I made up this random voice and I'm like, why does it have to be pink? That's what ends up happening in role reversal. And it's like, well, that's the exaggerated version of how I actually talk, or that's the exaggerated version of what I actually do. So let's uncover that a little bit. So it's like when let's say it's on a weekend and your role reversal with your wife, maybe she's the one that calls up her buddies, goes to the bar to watch a UFC match, right? And it's like, well, what does that look like, right? And then maybe you are at home with the kids and you're cleaning and whatever. Like maybe you're like, oh my goodness, now you both have kind of a different respect, because just because it seems easier to go and hang out with friends and things like that, like it doesn't always mean it's easier. Sometimes we're having to deal with things. We have to deal with our buddies who might be dealing with their pain. And sometimes we are the person that they want to be around because they want to dump all of their problems on you, right? On me. And that's hard work.
Absolutely.
Or, you know, I'm the one that has to sift through hundreds of comments and direct messages and emails and text messages from my clients. And I put so much passion into that. So now if I put that on you, okay, now you're going to take care of all of my tech. You're going to have my phone for the day. My phone, my computer, go. You can have the passwords for it, and good luck. Good luck, right? And so I think what comes out of that is hopefully it's a better understanding as to how we can find a compromise or a blend to make this whole ecosystem work if you wanted to. That's it.
It's awesome. I'm digging it. I think that's a cool exercise. It sounds hard. It sounds hard to even like keep doing it for a few hours. You know, there was one thing. I mean, every once in a while, I'm like telling my wife, like, how about you do this right now? You know, for like something a little, you know, a little small that in the household. And she's like, no, like not digging it. And the same things about the things that she does. And like, doesn't sound too great. And yeah, a lot of appreciation for so many things that people do. And even just, as you're saying, like, it doesn't have to be the romantic relationship. It can be with clients, it can be with partners. Like I have my business partners, and a bunch of the things that they do. And I'm like, it hit me like I was on a retreat like a couple of weeks ago, maybe less than a couple of weeks. And one of the guys did things that he also took initiative. And I'm like, wow, you're like, you pulled it off. I'm like, I didn't even think about those things. You thought about it in advance. You got them done. I'm like, wow, just so much gratitude. Yeah. So much gratitude and so much appreciation. Yeah, that's so cool. I'm interested, you know, I've seen that you do retreats, or you're part of retreats in Turks and Caicos, which sounds very, you know, sensational. I'd love to hear about those.
Well, it's funny. or interesting that you bring that up, because for many years, more than a decade, I've been working on trying to cultivate and grow some kind of tribe or community of people in the form of a retreat all around the world, not just, one place. And throughout the years, I've had some possibilities to do some work with retreats in Costa Rica and like upstate New York. And I actually had a process in which I was supposed to do 3 weeks of retreats in Aspen, Colorado. And for whatever reason, just the universe didn't have it in store for me. So it hasn't come to fruition. The closest I got was the one in Turks and Caicos, right? So now I've been there. I've done kind of getting the groundwork laid out. I've done all of that stuff. But when it came time to actually get people to sign up and go, they did it. We had a small group of people signed up, and I didn't have my passport back in time because I had been on tour, and I ran out of pages on my passport, which is a kind of a first world problem, right? Ooh. But I ran out of pages, so I had to turn it in, get it renewed. It did not come back in time. So I basically was here in New York City waiting for a passport to come in. It came in 2 days before the retreat was finished. So fortunately, my business partner, she's a former client of mine as well. Her and a bunch of her friends were there, and they did it on their own, which was great. Now, most people would look at that and go, "Oh my gosh, like you've worked so hard throughout your whole career to get this finally off the ground, and it didn't happen." I mean, it did happen, but like it didn't happen with me involved. Sure, it was challenging and tough and annoying, but what came out of that was quite beautiful, because a guy that I call Uncle Mike, he's not really my uncle, but he's a close family friend. For the first time, he was going to be coming to a retreat with me, and I feel like he could use all the help that he can get, especially in the form of working with me. And he's known me since I was a little boy, and I grew up across the street from him, and he went to school with my dad and all these things. And throughout all these years, he's always commented to other people about how amazing Josh Holland is, right? Like, Josh is the best trainer and this and that. And like, he's even worked with me. And I kind of think to myself, it's interesting that you'll say that. But then I wonder what people think when they see you, right? Because he was overweight and he had some breathing problems and could barely walk too far. And I was always kind of like, hey, let's make some changes. And so he was making some changes incrementally over the years, but he had never done anything like he never came to work out with me. He always wanted to do things on his own, and he finally decided, hey, Josh, like, I think I want to come to that retreat. Okay. And then my passport doesn't come. So I'm like, I had this opportunity to actually work with him, and if nothing else, work with him, right? So he calls me up and he says, hey, I know that you had your heart set on doing this, and I sure did as well. How about since we took the time to devote to going to that, and I really wanted to work with you, how about we go to Maui instead? Because I had been to all of the major islands of Hawaii except Maui. I had always talked about going to Maui, and he was like, let's use our fly miles that we would have had. Let's use it to go to Maui. So I was like, done. Let's do it. So within a few days, we had already booked the flight. We go to Maui, and I put some content out there of him working out. Great. Well, his birthday just passed a couple days ago. So we came back from Maui, and what's happening in Maui right now, yeah. Right? Like on Maui, right? It's incredible. It's very unfortunate and sad. I will say I'm blessed to have been able to go before all of that. And so literally, I think I got back, and 2 weeks later, all of that happened on Maui, which is very sad. But then, so we're back here, and his birthday just passed a couple of days ago. He comes to New York City. He could have gone anywhere in the world. He's a wealthy guy, self-made multimillionaire, and he could have gone anywhere in the world, but he decided to come to New York so he could spend a couple of days with me. And instead of coming here and partying and doing all that, I gave it to him. I put him to work. And I just messaged him yesterday, just checking in on him, which he loves. He loves when I check in on him. Just like, how are you feeling? because I knew he'd be sore because I had him doing electrical muscle stimulation workout, right? And his response to me, I said, "Hey, how's the soreness and how are you feeling?" He was like, "I love it. I feel alive. Thank you for asking." That's it.
That's beautiful.
Like, you know, and I don't even really know why I got to that point, only to say that, well, I know how I got to that point. It's the retreat, the way that it was supposed to work out didn't work that way exactly, but something more beautiful was in store for me and for someone else in this world. And that occurred. So I think that's the point of the reason why I was saying that. And so to wrap all that up in terms of the whole retreat thing, I still plan on doing retreats. I still will be doing retreats. I just don't know where the next one will be. I still have plans to do an official one in Turks and Caicos, and that's still available for me. I have the hope to do something in Asia. I also have the hope to do something in Africa. And there's a number of opportunities in each of those places. So I'm just kind of working on it, you know?
I love it. You're really a world traveler, it sounds like.
Yeah. I've been to over 50 countries. I think I've been to 52 countries so far. And several of those countries I've been to more than 3 times.
Wow.
So, yeah, I've traveled a lot.
What brings you abroad usually?
Work. So usually, like, I work with several clients. So Madonna, Roger Waters, Oscar Isaac. Those are kind of like my top 3 main clients that sort of bring me around to travel. And then other opportunities I had to travel for work would be like when I would go to do work with Techno Gym. They're based in Italy. And so I would go to their headquarters to do stuff like in Milan or in what is I forget the name of the city that they actually have their headquarters. But sometimes I would do that, or I would go to London for other work, you know, but mostly it's for touring or working on movies.
That's cool. Do you like it?
I absolutely love it. I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, I'm lying. The only thing I would change is I would do it more often.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, I would do it more often, and I would love to bring my family with me, especially my kids.
Yeah. Are you in New York City because of work mostly? Because you love the city? I'm curious. Being based in New York City, how much you travel, and you know.
Really good question and a really good point. So I moved to New York 19 years ago to pursue modeling and acting. And I would say modeling and acting, and also just for more opportunity. I felt like, so I'm from Oklahoma, a very small town, but then when I graduated high school, I lived in Oklahoma City. And after I graduated college, I just felt like the mentality of Oklahomans, and this is not a dig, or this is not speaking ill of anyone that's kind of with this mindset, but the mindset of the small town Oklahoman at that time was you stay in your lane, you do one thing, you focus on it, you excel at it, you get married, you have kids, you live the life, and then you repeat. It's just like you have kids and they do the same thing, they do the same thing. For me, I always felt like I had hit, there was like a ceiling, and that you could only get but so far by being there. And most of the people that I grew up with had never really traveled abroad. None of them had passports. My dad, to this day, has still never been on an airplane, and he will never go on an airplane. I mean, it's just what he said, you know, because he's like, everything he needs is in his small town. So, and then even my brother, like, I had to literally pay for his ticket and tell him, if you don't get on this flight to come and visit me in New York, then, you know, not that I won't ever talk to you again, but like, I'll be pissed off, you know? And so even my brother, like, the first time that he ever traveled was to come here, right? The first time that he ever traveled abroad was to meet me on tour in Italy, you know? And so that helped open his mind up. So anyway, all that to say is that it wasn't that New York was the place that I wanted to live, but New York happened to be the first. So the reason why I even had New York on my radar is because when I wanted to do some fitness modeling and whatever, I got my first computer. I created this copy and pastable response of like, hey, my name is Josh. I like your magazine. I think I could do some fitness modeling. Here's some photos. What do you think? So I had that really written up in a very nice way to where I could copy and paste it. And then I would attach with a floppy disk, if you remember what those are, with a floppy disk. And I would put that into my laptop that I just bought. And I would go to, like, I went to Walmart and I got a stack of magazines and I just flipped each magazine open and I would go write that email down. And then I would just hit send and I would just blast mail it could be someone that has nothing to do with selecting of models for a magazine, but I would email them, right? I'm like, I want them to know who I am. You know, I'm this kid from Oklahoma that wants to be seen. Okay.
That's the hustle right there.
But again, it was like this hustle mentality that works very well in New York, but doesn't work very well in Oklahoma. Right. Like most of the people thought I was crazy. Like, why are you doing that? Right. And so long story short, I think it was 3 different magazine companies reached out to me and said, well, they just responded. But of the 3, 2 of them thought, yeah, you might be able to do it. And one of them said, well, if you're willing to come to New York, we'll meet with you. And that was Rodale. And Rodale, they have they're a huge umbrella company for a bunch of different magazines. But one of the main magazines I first worked with was Men's Health Magazine. And so I went, interviewed with them. They liked me, took some photos. They told me to sign with a couple of agencies because they usually pick from these agencies, right? So I understood how the modeling agencies work. And so I signed with 2 different agencies. And it was like 3 months later, I ended up moving to New York. And I thought maybe I saved up enough money to live in New York for like 6 months. Maybe I'll do some magazines. And I think like, I can go back to Oklahoma or wherever else I'm going to move and hang my hat on the fact that I got some magazines, right? Well, 19 years later, I'm still here. So there you go.
So were you jacked already at a young age? Were you playing sports? How did all this comes to like an idea?
Yeah, I guess you could say jacked, but like I was fit because I grew up in martial arts. And then I played basketball at a very high level. So I played all through middle school, high school, played in college, and then I played professionally overseas. But playing overseas didn't really happen until after I came to New York because I was playing basketball to stay in shape. But while I was playing basketball in college in Oklahoma, I was also working part-time at GNC, General Nutrition Center. And so I had worked there off and on. Well, I worked there for 6.5 years. And throughout that time there, I was learning about supplementation. And I was learning about, like, one of my cousins was a big bodybuilder. So I learned the difference between steroids and other performance-enhancing drugs, but like the legal ones versus the non-legal ones. And then I started to understand about herbs and tinctures. And, my dad, he was always very well-rounded. And he has a big influence in Eastern philosophy and Eastern medicine, which is a big part of my martial arts upbringing. So I learned about ginseng and golden seal and all of these different herbs and tinctures, while at the same time I learned the Western side of it, which was like creatine and like nitric oxide and all these things and protein and amino acids. And I learned about all that stuff, and he put all that together. And by the time I was graduating college, I had really became more vain because I was working at it, right? Like it went beyond just the performance, because I knew that I was kind of at the tail end of my career as a basketball player. And I was thinking like, I'm probably never going to make it pro just because of whatever, I ended up breaking my wrist and doing all kinds of things. So I thought, well, I've got this body that I've been working hard at. And all these girls tell me, even the guys come up to me and like, bro, I want to train with you. I want to do what you're doing. I want to take what you're taking, And so, I got these photos in which I'm in my underwear because it was part of the subject or the assignment in my photography class, right? Like, the assignment wasn't for me to be in my underwear, but the assignment was to bring about, I think, vulnerability or something like that. And one of the girls was really cute and she thought I was cute. And so she was like, hey, will you be my subject for the vulnerability piece. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I had some images. I'm in my underwear, and I thought I'd look good, and then when I actually got to Oklahoma City after I graduated, I worked with this photographer who's a good friend. His name is Quentin Myers, and he did my first like bona fide fitness modeling shoot. And so I'm doing all these poses, and I thought I was the shit, And I got all these images back, and that's what ultimately got me discovered. And I was working so many like random jobs. Like I used to be a door-to-door salesman. I used to go in the heat of the summer with a full suit on. I would go and knock on people's doors and sell these marketing pamphlets where you could either get pizza or go to a baseball game or a football game. And that enabled me to make a lot of money. I was good at it, but I knew that that's not what I wanted to do. But it's that hustle mentality that was like, I remember I knocked on this guy's door, this huge, amazing house. And I had a group of people with me, a group of kids, young guys with me who also wanted to do what I was doing, right? It was part of a day of observation. And I go and knock on this guy's door, and he's kind of seen it before. He's like, we've seen door-to-door salesmen, but he thought something was different about me. So he's like, he opens the door and he's like, what can I do for you? And I'm like, hey, nothing serious. Just want to ask you a question. Do you like baseball or football, pizza or salad, something like that? And he's like, you know what? He's like, come on in here. And I was like, no, I can't. I'm not allowed to. I've got so many more people to meet today because I'm giving away free pizza and baseball tickets. If you're not interested, I got to go to the next person, right? Or whatever. So he's like, this guy's good, right? So he ultimately ends up inviting me to interview for his company because he was the head of Trader Publications, which is the company that runs Auto Trader, Truck Trader, Boat Trader, all that. So he was the head of Auto Trader or of Trader Publications. I just knocked on his door, basically tried to sell to him. And then he turns around and says, if you'll meet with me, you come to my office, I'll buy the rest of those tickets so that you don't have to stay out here. And I was like, okay. So the next day I went and I met with him. He offered me a job, ended up getting that job. And, he was like, Josh, like, I respect your hustle. I think what you're doing is amazing and you're good at what you do. He goes, but don't you want to have benefits? And don't you want to have like, insurance? And don't you want to like not have to be outside sweating your balls off? Like, don't you want to be like whatever? And I was like, yeah, sure. But I knew he was telling me that because he wanted me to work for him. But I took it a step further and thought, okay, if he sees this in me, what do I see in me? I see even way more possibility than what he even sees because I haven't showed him half of what I can do. Right. So I thought maybe I can use this as a catapult to get me to the next level. So I'm at this place, Trader Publications. I didn't have to be there all day long. Like I most of my job was driving, right? So I would drive around. I was a regional manager. So I would drive to different, like, what do you call those places? Dealerships. I would drive to different dealerships, sell them advertising into this magazine. And then once my day was done, once I finished my route, I'd go home. But not Josh, right? This place had the best Wi-Fi and the best computer systems. So I would finish my route early, go back into the office and send out casting calls. And I would submit to different castings and I would submit all, and they're like, Josh is he loves to be at work. He's here. And I'm like, yeah, so I got some of my first gigs from the next job that I was working at.
Wow.
So when I got that opportunity, when they invited me to come to New York to meet at Rodale and Men's Health Magazine, hell yeah. So that's it, man.
Whoa. Holy guacamole with that story, man. I mean, your hustle and tenacity and energy, obviously, that is infectious in the best way possible is absolutely inspiring. I mean, wow. How did you end up working with like big stars going on tours? Talking about Madonna. I mean, this is as big as it can get. Barbie, Madonna. I mean, it's like the one namer, right? Yeah, there's not even a last name there. It's as big as it gets.
Exactly. Okay, I'll give you the short version of that one, because it's also a pretty crazy story. But keep in mind, all of this is succeeded, or it's after the fact that I moved to New York. So I'm in New York. Part of the reason why I started playing basketball again, because remember, I graduated college. I thought my basketball career was over, but because it was such a big part of my life, I was like, okay, if I'm moving to New York to do modeling and acting, I need to be fit, right? And I didn't have the money to be able to pay for a gym membership, and I didn't really need one, right? So I was like, okay, maybe I could become a trainer at a gym so that I can go to the gym for free and work out. And I got hired to work at Bally's, but I quickly understood the big gym business model, which I hate, right? I mean, I strongly dislike. Okay. So, it's the system in which, couple things here, and I'm going on tangents. I will get back to it. I promise. The big box gym system of today is designed for people to fail. Mm-hmm. It's not designed. So if every person that they sell a membership to, if every person actually came to the gym, then there would be no way that they could sustain that business model, period. So I don't like being involved in any organization or system that is designed for people to fail. Right? So I didn't understand that though until I was behind the scenes. I got hired to work at a gym like Bally's, and there's nothing wrong with Bally's, but that's the same model that most big gyms employ. So then I'm like, okay, so what do you want me to do? Because I'm not quite certified with the certification you want. I did have a certification, but not the certification they wanted, because they wanted you to be able to work until you're certified, but work for free, right? They call it getting floor hours, right? I think of that as modern day slavery, but they want you to get floor hours and work for free until you get your certification that they want you to get. And then you can work and give them more than half of your money. Right. So I go, thank you, but no, thank you. I quickly don't do that. And then now, but I understand that though, I see that at all of the big major gyms, and I'm like, wow. So I thought to myself, if one day I ever get my own gym, that is an example of what not to do. So that's what I don't do. So anybody that works for me knows we're very upfront about it. We want everyone to show up. We can let you know if we're over capacity, blah, 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 blah. Right? Now, since I didn't get that job, since I didn't actually start working there, I didn't have a gym to go to. So I heard about this gym on the Upper West Side that they have a basketball league, right? So a friend of mine invited me to go play at this basketball league. Or actually it was just pickup ball, right? They were just playing pickup, hey, come and play. And we heard you're a good basketball player, so come and play and, meet some people. Cool. Well, I'm playing there a couple times, and the guy comes up to me one day randomly, and he was like, hey, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from Oklahoma. He's like, okay. He's like, have you heard of the men's league that we have here? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I heard someone talking about it, but I don't know. He was like, well, are you playing? And I'm like, I would like to, but I'm new here. I don't know anybody. He was like, I want you to play for me, and I'll pay for your entry fee to play for me. And I was like, okay, cool. Now, I happen to be on the team that had some of the best players in that league. Oh. The upside to that is that we won the chip. We were the best team. The downside to that was I didn't get a chance to play that much because I was playing with one of the best street ball players in all of New York. Yeah. Okay. Now, what ended up happening is that next year, I ended up the next season, because I think it's 2 or 3 seasons per year. I quickly realized that, wait a minute, if I want to make a name for myself, then, what happens is if you win, you get free entry into the next season. Keep in mind, I didn't have a lot of money, right? Yeah. So this was the hustle. So the next season, I'm like, I can choose to play with whoever I want to play with. And I said to the guy, I'm like, listen, if I'm not going to get a chance to play, then I would rather, build another team. It is what it is. No hard feelings. So I ended up playing with another team. My entry fee was free. I ended up getting MVP of the league.
Oof.
Okay. Now, I mean, I had some insane games, like 50-point games and, 3-point records and all kinds of stuff, like I was balling out. And so keep in mind, this is just kind of like pick up men's league, kind of like whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, I ended up getting scouted by Rolando Blackman, who's a legend in the NBA. And he's friends with my manager now. He wasn't my manager at the time, but they came to watch me play and basically vouched for me to be able to play overseas. So now I'm playing overseas now. I come back. Every time I come back, I want to stay in shape. So I go to that gym because I can be there for free, basically. And one day, this lady comes up to me and she's like, hey, I know you don't know me, but I've been watching you over the years. I've seen you in magazines, and I know you're really good in athletics. I've seen your body, but like, if you have any kind of dance ability, I imagine you do, I might have a perfect job for you. And I was like, well, yeah, I can dance, like all black people can dance, right? I mean, it's like supposedly. And so I was like, yeah, like, well, why not? So she gives me this piece of paper and basically is like, listen, my friend is the general manager for Tracy Anderson. I didn't know who Tracy Anderson was at the time, quickly found out that she was Madonna's trainer. And long story short, she was hiring males and females that had dance background and fitness training background. I fit that. Ended up getting that job. One thing led to another. Ended up helping her to train Madonna. Madonna ended up liking me. And then Madonna decided to keep me on. And I got a chance to tour the world with her and built my business off of, word of mouth by working with her and so on and so forth. So,
wow.
Yeah.
How long ago was when you started working with Madonna's team?
Well, so I got the gig with Tracy Anderson, I think in 2008. And I think I met Madonna like sort of the end of 2008, or certainly it was the end of 2008. So 2008.
Oh, a while ago.
A long time ago. And I mean, to this day, I still communicate with her. And like, I was back working full time with her during the pandemic. And that's why I was living in LA, because she's based in New York, but she, like, during the pandemic, I think it was better for her because we were in the Hamptons for about 3 months in quarantine together as a family. And then she decided that she wanted to move to LA. And so I spent about 10 months with her during the pandemic. And then I ended up having to go to Budapest to help to birth my daughter. So that's why I went to Budapest. But I mostly went to Budapest because my buddy Oscar Isaac was shooting a movie. He was shooting a TV show called Moon Knight. So he was shooting Moon Knight at the same time that my daughter was about to be born. So it worked better for me to do that as opposed to staying in LA and working with Madonna. So,
wow.
Yeah.
What was it like to be in quarantine with Madonna? With the family, with the yeah. There's a family there, team.
Yeah, like it's the way that I would normally say this is like, oh, it's no different than me being here, really, because it's not. But to the average person who doesn't even understand like if I was speaking to someone else who works with Madonna, then they would understand what I'm saying. I think what most people probably want to hear is what it's like in terms of like, is she hard to work with or this and that? But I mean, to be fair, she's very busy. So most of the time, like I'm not interacting with her except for when I need to interact with her for those couple of hours to either do physical therapy treatments or fitness training or whatever. So the rest of the time, it's just like, during the quarantine, I had a blast, man. We had like, because there was about 18 to 20 people there together. So like nannies and assistants and trainers and all that stuff. And so we had enough people to do soccer games. We had enough people to do basketball games, which obviously I love basketball, and her boyfriend at the time was a really good basketball player. And we had a couple other guys around and we were all quarantined together. So like, why not? Right. So we had the most fun ever. I was riding motorcycles and four-wheelers and horses. And I mean, it was a blast. Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing.
That's so awesome. Sounds like the best quarantine experience possibly in the whole state of New York, if not in the world, but definitely in this, this is talking about New York. This
Yeah,
sounds like
it was amazing.
like a long, big party of a good amount of people together. I mean, yeah, that's awesome. What
It was good.
So wow, it blows my mind. It blows my mind because we talked about the fact that your passport didn't show up, and you got to hang out with Uncle Mike and such, and it seems like and this is something also I talked about with Ian Mitchell, is like the path is pulling you. It's like we are taking action all the time. I mean, you were hustling, you're doing a million and one things, from one thing to another. You have your vision, like you're pulled to do all these things that seem quite huge blessings and experiences, especially in this life you're living. How are you? How are you seeing your life? Are you you waking up? Are you like super grateful all the time? I'm curious how your life is going. It sounds amazing. That's what I would say.
Listen, great question, and thank you for that. I am beyond grateful. Gratitude is one of the key points of my show, my podcast called Simply Walk the Talk. At the very end of Simply Walk the Talk, one of my main questions is, what makes you most grateful? I ask that question because it keeps me accountable to my gratitude, my own gratitude. And there was a point in time when I was like every day for a year, I was writing in a gratitude journal, and I constantly still practice gratitude a lot, but I'm super grateful. And I think people who are successful have some level of gratitude, a constant gratitude in their life, because it's hard to be successful and not be grateful, at least to some degree, right? And doesn't mean that times aren't tough, because it's tough not being able to see my kids. It's tough not being able to finally get this official retreat going, right? There's a lot of challenges, but I can still be grateful for whatever life brings. I'm grateful to wake up. I'm grateful to be able to communicate with you and have a roof over my head, and to be able to have experiences that I can share with you so that others can understand what that's like to hear these experiences. But I'm beyond grateful, man. I'm very, very grateful.
It's so beautiful. Do you have a gratitude practice at the moment? Did you do something you can share with our audience?
My gratitude practice comes when I do my breath work, and it is just very simple. Just like I don't have like a spoken mantra, but I do think of it, and this mantra is: our bodies and minds adapt to what we do most of the time. If you want to change your body and mind, you must change what it is you do most of the time. That mantra is within me and exudes from me in everything that I do. And so when I just think about that, even just saying that is one level, but just thinking about it is like, right? Because the only constant in this world is change, right?
Absolutely.
And so if you want to change, and that's a big part in breaking up that sentence, like the start of the second sentence is, if you want to change your body and mind, you must change what it is you do most of the time. And so when you think about that and you get really, really deep in thought on that, then you think, well, what are the things I do most of the time? And that should give you the level of the 5 pillars in my book. The why number one is number one. The one with the biggest amount of focus is quality awareness, because that's the thing that we can and should do most of the time. That's the one thing that we can do throughout our entire day. We can. We don't, but we can. And then the next most important thing that we do more than anything else should be sleep and recovery. Should be, right? And then the next thing that we do more than anything else is consumption. We're either consuming the energy around us, we're consuming the environment, or we're consuming food and drink. And then the next thing that we consume more than that is being active. And then the thing that we focus on probably the least amount than anything, or we should, is exercise. But what ends up happening is more people put more focus on the exercise component than they do anything else. But that has the least bang for the buck, right? Because it's maybe adding more stress. It's keeping you from sleeping. I tell you this, if your workout routine causes you to miss out on good quality sleep, then why are you doing it? What's the point? Unless you're a competitive athlete that's getting paid and that's your job, then what the heck is going on? Right? Like your sleep, quality sleep, it's number 2 on my, quality rest and recovery is sleep. That's number 2 on my hierarchy of things. And before quality awareness, it was actually number 1. So I used to have 4 pillars. Number 1 was quality sleep. Okay. Because that was the thing that I was finding out that was the most important for all the clients I worked with, until I went through this psychedelic experience and I understood, like, oh, wait a minute, there's way more out there than just sleep. There's the universe. There's being aware that we even need to change something. That's how this mantra comes about, right? So the mantra gets embedded into the fact that, like, oh, if you want to change your body and mind, it's not just sleep that you should change, but you should change your awareness. And that's why I was like, okay, so quality awareness is 1, quality rest and recovery 2, so on and so forth. So it's a long-winded answer in saying that I do practice breath work every single day. I get into a flow state in the mornings by grinding my coffee, making my coffee, hanging upside down on an inversion table, doing breath work, and focusing on that mantra, even if it's just for a moment. But I'm also thinking about the many things that I have done and I've accomplished, and the things that I want to work on in the future. That's what helps keep me on track, because it does sound like I have a lot going on, and I'm not even talking a third of what I do. But what helps keep me on track is, like, I focus and I concentrate, and I am gracious. I have gratitude for all the things that is in store for me in the future.
What kind of breath work do you do?
Again,
changes.
Yeah, exactly. Because what I was going to say is, even from the beginning of this conversation, everything I do is on a spectrum, right? So I like to practice all forms of breathing. And I think the closest mine could be called to would maybe be like a rectangular breathing, right?
The equal parts, inhale, hold, and
right. Or what would a shape be called? Was it a trapezoid? Maybe mine would be a trapezoid, because my exhale is longer than anything, right? My inhale is very long, but I can't inhale as long as I can hold, right? And my hold after the inhale is a lot longer than my hold after the exhale. For
sure.
Right. So what I try to do is not focus on anything other, because if I'm focusing on counting of the time, that's a different form of meditation for me. Right. So I can do box breathing and do it perfectly, like, oh, do this, do that. Or I could do Buteyko breathing, or I could do, Wim Hof method, or, whatever. I can do all the different fire breathing and things like that. But a lot of times I like to just arrive wherever I am in that moment, and then just maximize the inhale. I go the slowest inhale I can possibly do, the longest hold with that oxygen, and I'm literally thinking about every cell and tissue throughout my body is being saturated with this beautiful air that just came into the body, right? And now the longer I hold it, the longer that my tissues get saturated with this beautiful amount of oxygen. Then when I exhale the slowest, longest exhale that I possibly can, and basically being gracious for allowing those tissues to be saturated, because then the next thing that's happening is this buildup of this amazing molecule called CO2. So as I exhale, I'm now thanking the body, thanking the universe for the CO2 that is now building up. That's also helping to offload the oxygen molecules from the hemoglobin, which allows for better oxygen utilization in the first place. So it's just this whole cycle of being gracious for what that process is without counting, any certain way.
That's awesome. I love that your mind is on the gratitude once again. So how much time you're spending in gratitude, and you have so much knowledge on the the physics of it and everything else that has to do, so you can really tap in. You don't have, perhaps we start with box breathing or something else, or Wim Hof method, to kind of get the mechanics, and years after, on kind of on your path, you don't have to think about those things. You're doing what you're feeling tuned to do intuitively, and you can really focus at that time with the visualization, it sounds like, and gratitude for all that. That's so beautiful. If we have time, I'd love to hear about when awareness became one of the pillars of your ethos with this psychedelic experience.
Yeah. So what's really, really interesting is I actually wrote the book. Tessa and I wrote the book before I had this weekly psychedelic journey, and I was thrust into the wolves, basically, right? Just kind of head first, because up until that point, I hadn't done anything except cannabis and alcohol. I'm not a big drinker, and never was. I didn't drink alcohol until I was 21. I didn't smoke cannabis until I was, I think I was 24 when I smoked. I did it 3 times and didn't like it. Didn't try it again until I was 27. And then I started to understand some of the benefits around it and the different ways of utilizing it. So basically, up until the point of me doing my psychedelic journeys, all I had done really was cannabis, right? And some friends were talking to me about ways to incorporate cannabis into like a psychedelic experience, which I thought was really cool. And then they started talking about microdosing of psilocybin, and I was like, okay, interesting. And I tried a couple rounds of microdosing, actually with Tessa, but I didn't feel anything. Mm-hmm. I didn't think I felt anything. And so I was like, okay, maybe I need to take a little bit more because I'm a bigger guy, and I probably, our digestive systems react to things a little bit differently than some other people. And so I tried it again, and I felt like a little something, but I wasn't sure what to feel because it wasn't in a ceremony, right? It wasn't in it wasn't the right set and setting. It wasn't like it was a bad set and setting, but it just wasn't the set and setting that allowed for me to be able to like experience something. So then I tried one time LSD, which I thought, and I was with a friend of mine, and this was when I was in California during the pandemic in LA. And that was amazing because I actually felt something. And again, it was just like one drop, right? Like one drop, I think. So it wasn't much, but what I felt was like, oh my goodness, this is cool. Like I remember sitting at this small cafe, and my friend, her and I, like she was driving, and we drove to a place to where like if and when it did hit, like we'd be there already, and it's all good. So it hit me when I went to go order, and in the cafe there was this projector that projected the menu on the wall, and which is kind of a cool concept. And this place was beautiful. It was like very healthy. It was kind of like Japanese style, very clean, very minimalistic. And it had the menu on the wall, and I'm looking at the menu, and I'm just like, wow. And then I finally managed to order something. And my friend, I guess I must have taken a while because I'm staring at this wall, the beauty of this whatever was happening with the menu. My friend comes in and she's like, everything okay? I'm like, yeah. Like, look how cool this is. And she was just like, I think it's working. I'm like, what? Anyway, so we order. And I remember when the food came out, before the food came out, the drinks came first. And I had ordered this sparkling coffee. Like it was a sparkling coffee drink. And I remember as soon as they set the glass down or the cup or whatever, I look at it and I go, this is so beautiful. And my friend is like, what are you talking about? I'm like, look at this. And each of those bubbles, the sparkling bubbles, look like diamonds. And it was just like popping out. And I'm like, look at this. You don't see that? And she was just like, Josh, she's like, it's working. And I'm like, okay, I get it. It's working. But like, seriously, behold the beauty of this right now. And she was like, that's the power of LSD. And so that was my first kind of like, whoa moments of something as simple as a menu projected on a wall and diamonds in a cup and coffee, right?
That's huge.
And so I thought, okay, there's something to this, right? Because I'm able to appreciate the beauty of nature, so to speak, right? So again, nothing really happened after that. And then I finally got invited to do a weekly, like a 5-day retreat in which there was multiple substances or compounds being taken. So I think it was what is it called? So we did DMT, we did MDMA, we did euthylone, I think was one, and we definitely did the last day we did 5 grams, so a hero dose of psilocybin, and that was very profound. I mean, keep in mind, all I had done at that point was barely any like microdose that I didn't feel much. And then I got thrust into this very potent, I grounded myself. So I was able to connect with it. And then apparently if you add orange juice with it, the acid helps to kind of bring up the molecules much faster so that you can get to that experience quicker. And oh my goodness. I think, ketamine. We did ketamine as well, right? So we did ketamine, DMT, MDMA, euthylone, and psilocybin. And after that, I kind of thought to myself, wow, that was my awareness shift. And that's why we came out with the second version. Because like instead of like rewriting the book, because I literally thought to myself, I need to scrap this book because it hadn't been submitted yet. I mean, it was submitted, but it hadn't been finalized yet. The white cover, right? But after I finished that retreat, I was like, I got to rewrite this whole book. And then I thought, no, because, I had Tessa there. This was her first, publication. This was my first publication. So it is what it is, right? This is life. You can't expect to perfect it every single time. So like put it out there. And then when you're ready, just come out with a new edition. And then I can write another book in the future and whatever. But that was the journey, man. It was very profound.
Wow. Sounds amazing. What was your main takeaway from the heroic dose? I'm interested, or from the retreat? I mean, it sounds like a lot of powerful compounds on their own.
There were a lot of powerful compounds. And one of the things I didn't mention was that we did a lot of energy healing and energy work throughout. And there was a lot of like reintegrations and debriefing throughout as well. So it was, my main takeaway was understanding how to harness my energy. And this is going to sound very esoteric, but to be able to harness the energy that I have within me and around me, and also how to protect it. And to also understand the amount of tentacles that were sort of within me that through energy work were kind of dislodged from me. And then again, how to protect that energy. And one of the most profound experiences that I can recall was I was able to connect with my ancestors. I was also able to connect with my children in a way that I hadn't connected with them, in reality. I was also able to deeply connect with the mother of my children. And I was able to forgive my parents for the things that they did not understand, and maybe how to raise me or raise us as kids, my brother and I. And I also was able to face fears, like any sort of fears, because, we were told that if you see a serpent or, you're in the underworld, just go head first into the serpent's mouth and things like that. Don't try to run from it. Don't try to resist the things that are difficult, because it can make your journey much more difficult. And that was very, I think, synonymous to life in general. So sometimes you have to, do the thing that's the hardest. Sometimes we feel like we don't say something to someone because we think that it will hurt their feelings and that it's going to make the situation better. But then you find out a year later or however much time later that, like, if you had told them that then, yes, it would have been painful, but it'd be far less painful than it is once they're fully invested in said situation. So I learned to be more authentic, to be fearless, and to have much more empathy in others.
Wow. I mean, that's quite the results, I would say, from our retreat. It sounds like you were very ripe for and had all the tools to kind of surrender into it and have the courage I think a lot of it takes a lot of courage. I mean, that sounds profoundly healing and transformative. Kudos to you for doing that work. Kudos for you for doing all the work that you've been doing. And really sounds like listening to all the little whispers that however people want to call it, God, consciousness, the universe has been calling you to do, and constantly showing up as your authentic, true, and motivated self. So, Josh, huge kudos to the man that you are. I'm in awe with you, and I'm super grateful for you sharing this time with me and with us. Where can people find you? I mean, you have your podcast, Simply Walk the Talk. What else we got for everybody?
Yeah, so I'll share, so you can put it in the show notes, but we've got the book, The Awareness Shift, with the yellow shift. We've got the podcast, Simply Walk the Talk, on all major platforms. I usually ask people to go, if you have the time and the desire, to go and watch it on YouTube. So I have a YouTube playlist on my YouTube channel. And I'm on Instagram and all social media platforms, fortunately, with the same tag or the same username, at Joshua J. Holland. So nice. That's Joshua with my middle initial, J, and then my last name, Holland. And my website is joshuajholland.com. And that's it.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. I'm inspired by your energy and your path, and everything that you're embodying. Yeah, thank you so much for what you're doing, for who you are, and for contributing a lot to this experience here on planet Earth, I would say, and beyond. There's much more than I want to talk to you. I know we're coming on our 2 hours now. I'm sure we're going to have a follow-up. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Yeah, thank you. And if you listened up to this point, all the listeners and viewers, thank you as well. If you are curious about learning more about me, feel free to hit me up. Maybe we can get you onto my show at some point, Yoni. And I'm glad that you hit the record button, because can you imagine almost 2 hours of no non-recorded material?
Absolutely.
So thank you for that. Keep spreading the light, man, and keep doing your thing.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. See ya. Well, lovely beings, I hope you enjoyed and were inspired by this conversation as much as I was. You can find the full show notes and all episodes on my website at yonihavana.com/podcast. If you are a man and you are called to do transformational work to become a better man, to find and grow the divinity within you, and you are longing a community of masculine men who share a passion for growth, please check out Men of Integrity by going to moi.community. Lastly, if you are enjoying the Yoni Havana podcast, I'd be so grateful if you take a moment to leave us a rating and a review on your podcast app of choice. The Yoni Havana podcast is a brand new show, and your support would help reach new people by rating higher on the algorithms. Also, your feedback would help me deliver the best experience to you as the show keeps evolving. Much love and a big aho. See you on the next one.